This video is going to be a film study look at the two game-changing plays that Marlon Humphrey turned in Monday night's 41-31 win over the Bucs. He now has, I think, 4 interceptions on the season, 8 or 9 passes defense. News came out this morning, Wednesday morning, that his knee injury isn't supposed to be serious. Nonetheless, I would expect him to be out for a while. For him to have left the game and almost immediately be determined to be out, there must be some kind of concern there in terms of pain, swelling, whatever. But these two interceptions that I'm going to show you against the Bucs are so similar to the fourth quarter pick against the Bengals. Different time of game, but some of the circumstances are the same. On the road, trailing, one of them in the fourth quarter, Cincinnati, and then one of them in the first half. The other team's offense absolutely in control. Look, there is a scenario if Baker Mayfield doesn't throw an interception to Marlon Humphrey. Well, if Mike Evans catches the touchdown pass, they've scored 2 touchdowns. There's a scenario or a path where the Bucs are up 21-7 at one point in that game on Monday night. Marlon Humphrey took advantage of the opportunity, got a pick, game-changing pick when we're down 10-7. We're able to go down offensively. And look, our offense was absolutely unstoppable against that Bucs defense. I did multiple offense film study videos on Tuesday. You're welcome to check those out. I'll try to link them up here as the video flows through. What if Marlon Humphrey doesn't have either of those 3 picks? What if he only has the third? Meaning, what if the Bucs are able to get a touchdown on that possession where he makes an interception in the back right corner of the end zone out of what I believe is a cover 2? And what if he doesn't have the fourth quarter interception against the Bengals? I offer to you that they are, and I said this after the Cincinnati game, those are season-changing plays, in my opinion. And so we should give credit where it's due. He's playing extremely well outside of the interceptions, in my opinion. Coverage-wise, tackling against the run. I could do more plays in this video than just the handful that I'm going to show. I believe Marlon Humphrey is having a season on par with his 2022 campaign, where, in my opinion, he very easily could have been an All-Pro, but nonetheless, he was only selected to the Pro Bowl. Real quick, the interception against the Bengals. One more time, he's up against Jamar Chase up at the top side of the screen. We're up 38-35 at this point. It's a 2nd and 15, a little over 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. This one absolutely changed the tone and tenor of the game. You've got an in cut by Jamar Chase and then an out cut by Io Civis. So the Bengals, are isolating Marlon Humphrey into this particular space between the top of the numbers and the hash. He just wins. He just beats Jamar Chase to the inside. Joe Burrow throws the ball anyway because he trusts Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase generally wins those matchups against anyone and everyone, particularly in 2024. He's really having a bounce-back season after what I would call a good to above-average year for him in 2023. That play right there changed the win percentage for the Bengals and the Ravens, I think, in an instant on the road in Cincinnati, and so did these plays against the Bucs, because early on, they were absolutely shredding our defense. I got defense videos queued up for today. This is one look at the interception. Marlon is obviously down here in the bottom right. You kind of lose him because of my logo there. Forgive me for that. Peels off, and Baker Mayfield rightly identifies, I think it's McMillan in the back right corner. Roquan actually did a really nice job on this particular play. I'll come back to this one in a moment, kind of break some of it down. You've got a cover 2. But let's just take a look at what they're doing early on. They're attacking us in specific locations, in this case to the boundary. We've obviously got a Tampa 2 look by the Ravens. We're not changing coverages or altering shape at all on motion. Credit to the Bucs. A, they were snapping the ball quickly. B, they were motioning and snapping the ball while the receiver was still on or near the midline. So you can see that the receiver is almost right behind Baker Mayfield, and then the ball is snapped. It didn't let him get out to the other side such that we could adjust coverage. You got a typical cover 2 with 2 corners in the flats, half-field safety. Half-field safety on this side, Marcus Williams. He's got an initial vertical to deal with, and the second one, Brandon Stevens, because it's a Tampa 2, plays underneath of. There's no reason for him to be dealing with this route. We've got underneath defenders on the hash to handle it. But look, this is a design play. The Bucs, knew that we would be in a Tampa 2, in my opinion, and they understood where they were going to attack. Sometimes the coverage chart, so basically think of a field overlay, it shows you, as the offensive staff, where a team is calling a particular coverage, if you don't want to use an overlay, if you don't want to imagine an overlay of the entire field where basically you would have cover 2 and then a number next to it like 9, if the ball is located somewhere in this range. And again, I should have perhaps done an overlay for you. And then when you get somewhere in this range here, ball on the right hash, say for example you get man free. So as a play caller, you understand what you're probably going to get if you line up in a particular formation. Hopefully what I just drew, even though it's very rudimentary and basic, gives you an idea of why the Bucs were probably able to call that particular play and concept to exploit cover 2, Tampa 2, if you will, with so much surety, with so much assuredness, I should say. Also, the screen game. I mean, it is absolutely killing us defending these screens. Now, whether it's Owe, whether it's Van Noy, whether it's Ngakoue, we have guys that are being baited by the offensive tackle to a certain degree to come upfield, while the interior offensive linemen briefly work on a D tackle and then release out. This is a really well-designed play. The Bucs are an excellent screen team. They have been for 2 years. This one goes for 14 yards to Irvin. Not only did we have difficulty with the screens, and I'm not saying that their pass completions weren't legitimate, but they're relying on, it's a matchup whereby Tampa Bay is very good at screens, and we happen to be quite poor at defending them. Additional to that, and this has been 3 weeks in a row where we've seen this, A-gun configuration, meaning the running back on the same side as the tight end in the shotgun, and the running back releasing into the flats, picking, screening some of our defenders. I've got multiple iterations of this dating back to the Cincinnati game. Teams are exploiting us in particular situations. Again, this is a third down. We're down 10-7 at this point. We haven't had either of the interceptions by Marlon. I'm trying to set up the reason why I think they were so important, the reason why I think they were so game-changing, borderline season-changing, although our offense was absolutely in control. Even if the Bucs get out to a 21-7 lead, we probably just keep the foot on the pedal and score 48 points or maybe even 50. We were the balance of play between our offense and Tampa Bay's defense was that heavily weighted. I think we could have scored any number of points that we wanted to. But this is what teams are doing, and Roquan has no way to navigate this. You had essentially 2 pick shields with the tight end and the point man, running back into the flats, 13 yards. We've got to look at some other coverage options there, number one. Number two, I mean, this is not hard, okay? I have taught this to kids as young as 12 years old. If you get 2 or more receivers to one side with the back, and they're tightly compressed, meaning let's say that the 2 receivers were out here, their feet were in that area. It's not going to be as simple to accomplish this, but this can act as a wall or a shield. You have multiple players, read the back, and depending on how the back reacts is what you play coverage-wise. And you practice it and you rep it until the players get good at it. So, such that if a back releases in a manner that opens you up for a shield concept, someone who's already outside leverage would take that, and then Roquan would match up on the inside. We don't do that. We don't do any of that. There's way more complicated versions and explanations than I just offered you. The answer to this seems far too simple for an NFL defense to be able to handle, in my opinion. All right, so the first interception, we've already shown it once. Marlon is down here. Turn the logo off for a second. So get it out of you guys' way. All right, so Marlon is over here. Kyle Hamilton is the safety to that side, and Trenton Simpson is here. Roquan does an excellent job, if you ask me, of carrying a receiver across the formation. Yes, it's a zone, but eventually zone becomes man, and in this case, he's fronting up. I think it's Godwin running across. Hamilton looking at the quarterback. Simpson is underneath of McMillan, and Marlon is down bottom, matched up with the tight end. I love what Marlon tries to do here. You guys barely catch it at all down here. He tries to knock the tight end out of bounds to make him ineligible. That type of awareness is just, it sticks out like a sore thumb on this defense. Hamilton, does he have that type of awareness? Yes, at times. Even Trenton Simpson has shown, I think, high-level awareness to situations occasionally, particularly in the Chiefs game, his pass defense in the fourth quarter. So how did this happen? Well, Roquan matches up with Godwin running across the screen, left to right for the offense, top to bottom for us. Kyle Hamilton was looking there because that's where Baker Mayfield looked, and now he's totally focused on Baker Mayfield. He will lose McMillan in the back right corner. Yes, Marlon steps out of bounds down at the bottom side of the screen. You can't see it. You got a frame in your way. But since he reestablishes himself in bounds, he is allowed to come back to the play. I think Baker Mayfield was looking for something here with Godwin, but Roquan did a great job of covering it up. As an aside, I've already recorded my Roquan Smith film study. It'll be out this afternoon if you want to check that out with some of my observations about his coverage and his ability to play against the run. I think he did have 18 or 19 tackles on Monday night. Marlon slips underneath of this route. It's just beautiful. It's just sick football by Marlon Humphrey to jam the tight end, deal with him out into the flats. You'll catch Marlon a little bit late here, by the way. And look, yeah, there's a lot of time. People talking about acquiring a defensive end or outside linebacker. Okay, that's fine. Cool. Tampa Bay has an excellent pass pro and offensive line. They have for 2 or 3 years. It doesn't surprise me that they were able to, A, stop or slow down our pass rush, number one. Number two, there were times that we had guys who are almost in a pseudo spy technique and not necessarily rushing. We almost treated Baker like Josh Allen a couple of times, but I digress from the point of this video. That was timely. This could have been 21-7 in another universe, another realm, and instead it ends up being 10-7. We get the ball back to our offense. Well, I mean, it could have been 17-7 if that pass is completed, but point is they were able to get the ball down the field on us consistently on their first 3 or 4 possessions, and Marlon Humphrey, well, that was the third possession. Marlon Humphrey stopped the third possession and very easily, in my opinion, switched or altered the win percentage for both teams in that moment. Maybe not live time. I know that ESPN and other places give a win percentage, but looking back on it now, knowing what you know about how our offense flowed throughout the night, once we held them there and got the ball back for offense, got a 14-10 lead, and the onus was on the Bucs to score. They just didn't know it yet. Neither did I. Neither did any of us. We thought they would continue scoring. This is a 3rd and 13. This is a cover 3. The safety, Ardarius Washington, is working down to the hash. No, he's not at the same depth as the other underneath droppers, but it's because it's 3rd and 13. Just so you know, the line to gain the first down is here, the plus 45. That's Ardarius Washington. We'll pause it for a moment, talk about Marlon thereafter. Kyle Hamilton's got a little bit less depth here to the top side. He was our dime backer. These are your underneath 4 droppers. These are your 3 deep coverage, but sometimes cover 3 is essentially man, particularly on the backside of a 3-by-1 formation. That's basically what we play. So I think you've essentially got a cover 3, an obvious cover 3 here. And on the backside, Kyle Hamilton doesn't have as much depth because he's got to worry about the running back. Brandon Stevens is essentially playing this man from outside in leverage. Now, in terms of Marlon Humphrey, he pushes the flat instantly. And collisions, the number one a little bit. Number one is running a vertical. And then it's a sail concept that they've used a lot this year. Godwin running, basically it's a sail fade. There's your 3 routes drawn up, kind of sloppy. Marlon drops back. He does a great job seeing when this is thrown, understanding that it's to Godwin. Look, Wiggins is going to pick it if Marlon isn't there. So our guys were all over it. I think Wiggins is playing well. I did a film study video of him last week when there was more criticism than I was willing to levy. Yes, he did have a big defensive pass interference penalty against Washington, but to me, he's showing the reason why we drafted him number 1 in the first round, and we're going to need him this week because if we're out Marlon Humphrey, the guy who, if you accept my proposition, has made 3 of the biggest plays all year in terms of his 1 interception in the 4th quarter against the Bengals. We probably don't win that game if we don't turn them over with 3 minutes left in the game. And then 2 interceptions here in the first half, that is, against the Bucs to basically give our offense the ball, let us go down and get a 21-10 lead. I understand that for 2 or 3 years it's been cool to criticize Marlon Humphrey. Apparently it's not so cool to praise him because when you see stuff on social media about him still being injury prone, I totally reject the tone and tenor of that. It may be accurate, but if it weren't for Marlon Humphrey's 3 interceptions, 3 of his 4 interceptions this year, the Ravens theoretically could have 1 less win than they do, maybe even 2. if the Bucs are able to defeat us in a shootout. I think that our offense could have scored however many points we wanted to against that Tampa Bay defense Monday night. The point is, at the moment in time that he makes these interceptions, the result of the game is in extreme doubt in both situations, Cincinnati and Tampa Bay on the road. I think Marlon Humphrey deserves a tremendous amount of credit for a lot of reasons. 4 interceptions, 8 or 9 passes defense so far this year. But compare his play to the rest of our secondary. Who else is making plays? Who else is breaking on the ball? Who else is providing tight coverage in man? An excellent, smart, savvy, highly aware coverage from a spatial awareness standpoint in zone. Nobody, including Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's playing extremely well, but he's not made the game-changing plays Marlon Humphrey has this year. And I find the way that Marlon Humphrey is talked about to be a little bit off-putting. And I'm going to do it this way. What if Kyle Hamilton had the interception against the Bengals in the fourth quarter to change the game? What if he had the 2 interceptions against the Bucs and he also had 8 or 9 passes defensed? And Marlon Humphrey had Kyle Hamilton stats in terms of passes defensed and interceptions. What would the narrative from Ravens fans be about Kyle Hamilton? He's an all-world safety. He's an all-pro, which he is, even though he doesn't have the 4 interceptions Marlon Humphrey does. My point is, Humphrey is playing well independent of the interceptions, and he has handed the offense 3 golden opportunities to either take control of football games on the road or, in the case of the Bengals game, tie it in regulation at 38-all and then go down in overtime after they missed a field goal to win it. We're 5-2 for a reason, and Marlon Humphrey is a huge part of that, in my opinion. First of all, let me know what you think of those thoughts that I offered at the end in terms of the quality of Marlon Humphrey's play overall and the comparison for how he's evaluated by us as Ravens fans in terms of the overall interceptions and the way that he has swung momentum in our direction twice, actually 3 times, both situations on the road, games we were trailing where the other team's offense is in control to that point. And if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this content, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this video get more reach. I'll have a Roquan Smith film study out this afternoon with a couple of interesting observations or things that I think I've noticed. Number 1, in terms of his play, and number 2, in terms of how he's being aligned and positioned in a way that reduces the chances of success for each individual snap. Appreciate you guys' time.